What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be breaking down how to properly house hack. What are your options and what does that look like here in Minneapolis? Stay tuned. All right, we're gonna get right into this. No time is gonna be wasted. Again, my name is Jadde Rowe, and I am part of the Living in Minneapolis team, all right? But today, you're here to learn more about how to house hack. So let's talk about what house hacking is. That has been a term that has been thrown around a lot within social media. You've probably heard about Bigger Pockets. Maybe you've heard it on Instagram. Maybe you've heard it on YouTube. Maybe you've heard it on Facebook. Doesn't really matter. But house hacking is basically where you live in a house. Usually it's a duplex or multifamily, or it could be a single family. You live in that property, you buy that property, you own that property, and you rent out a portion of that property to reduce your monthly payment. All right, let's start this off by looking at actually a single family over a multifamily property. A lot of people talk about multifamily, but I actually think a single family can be a great house hack option. And here's how this works. You're gonna buy a house, a single family house. There's way more availability on a single family house than there is a multifamily. You can look in A spots, B spots, C spots, anywhere across the state and in the metro. There's just way more availability. But what you gotta look at is, hey, if I buy this property, what do I think I can rent the other rooms for? And what's my personal preference? But let's take an example. Let's take my house, for example, that I actually bought. One of my first properties I ever bought. I bought it for $255,000. I ended up finishing the basement to make it a 3-bed, 2-bath, and now it's a full-time rental. But prior to that, I bought it for $255,000. My mortgage payment was $1,350, I believe, because I put about $20,000 down. And my roommate, who was living in the other bedroom, he was paying $600 a month. So $1,350 minus $600 is about $750, I think, is what I was paying for my monthly payment. I was in an A+ area. It was in Shoreview, Minnesota, which was an awesome spot. I had access to trails. I had good school districts around me. I had good just coffee shops. I had good restaurants. I had good grocery shopping. If I would have went and tried to buy or rent in that area, there's no way I would have been able to rent for $750 myself for a 1-bedroom apartment in that area. And that's why this tool is so powerful, all right? I had a friend who was looking for a spot to live. Didn't need to be a friend. I could have looked on, Facebook Marketplace, or there's different places out there like roommate.com. You can find random roommates as well if you're open to that, to again reduce that monthly payment, because I normally would have been paying $1,350, but I only had one roommate paying me $600 a month. He was happy with it. He got a whole house, a fenced-in yard, didn't have to live in an apartment, and at a great price. And I was happy because it reduced my monthly payment by a ton. So that's the single family route. And again, I think single families are a great house hack tool. Some of them even come with mother-in-law suites as well. So they're almost a duplex, even though they're not zoned as a duplex. You're gonna have the downstairs. It's gonna be a separate kitchen than the upstairs, which is just fantastic. So highly, highly recommend looking at single families first, almost over multifamily, because there's way more options. You can get into a single family with way more loan programs as well. You can do 1% down programs, 3% down, 5%, 10, 15, 20%. But a lot of 3 and 5% down is what I see when people are buying their first single family home. I put 10% down, but that doesn't mean that you have to put 10% down. When we look at multifamily, there's gonna be a few different options for financing, and it's not as there's not as many options as there are for single family. So way more availability with single family. The numbers will still work. You're probably gonna maybe even get into a better location. Price point's gonna be better, and your options for financing are greater. Hey, just a quick break here. One, if you're still on this channel watching this video, thank you so much. Give me a like, leave me a comment, and if you want to subscribe, that would be fantastic, so that I can just reach more people and get my content out to more people, so that I can educate people about what it's actually like to live in the Minneapolis area. Also, if you do want a real estate advisor, real estate agent to help you when you make a move here, whether you're moving 9 miles within the state or 900 miles, reach out to me and my team. We would love to assist you any way we can. Lastly, stay tuned until the end of the video because I am gonna be throwing in a few bonus tips on some things that I really do see people miss a lot when they're looking at house hacking. So stay tuned for that info, and let's get back to the video. All right, so next after single family is gonna be the more traditional route that a lot of people usually talk about on the investment sites and social media, and that's duplexes, triplexes, and multifamily. You're gonna be looking at 2 to 4 units, right? If you go above 4 units, now you're not inside of a residential loan anymore. You're actually commercial. So 5+ units is gonna be commercial, 2 to 4 units is gonna be residential, and you can use residential owner-occupant financing. Let's get right into the financing part. Part of single family, or why I like single family, is that you had way more options. You had 3%, 5%, 10%, 15%, 1%, 3.5%. You have a lot of options there to get into that house. For a duplex or for a multifamily, you're gonna have a few options. It's really gonna be 3.5% down FHA or 5% conventional, and then after 3.5 or 5, it goes all the way up to 15%. So you don't have a very low 1% down, nor do you have a 10% down. The other kicker is that on the single family, those 3, 5, 10, there was no income limits. In the duplex multifamily world, there's actually income limits for the 5% down program. So if you make too much, now you're really only looking at 3.5% FHA or 15% conventional, and obviously above from there. But that's really a big jump there, 3.5% to 15%. It's a big jump, and that's why financing for these can be more difficult because there's less options available. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about house hacking a multifamily property. Another thing to be looking at when you are considering a multifamily to house hack is, one is gonna be, what's your mortgage payment? And then what's that entire unit going to be rented at, right? So for example, I house hacked a duplex in Plymouth. A couple of years ago, I bought this 3.5% down. I put about, I think it was $15,000, $16,000, $17,000 down on the property. I lived in the upper unit. My upper unit was a 3-bed, 1-bath unit. Downstairs was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath unit, all right? I chose not to have roommates, all right? And I'm in Plymouth. This is an A+ area, again, really awesome spot. Trails, school districts, I mean, everything I could have wanted. It was close to my family, it was close to my friends. It was an awesome spot for me. I chose not to have roommates, so I left two of the bedrooms available. One was my office and one was just kind of a storage space. But this is exactly what the numbers were. My mortgage payment was about $2,900. Downstairs rented for $1,350, so that left $1,650 for me, all right? Now, before you say, oh my gosh, that's really expensive, it's actually not. I had a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom unit. If I would have went and tried to get an apartment in Plymouth, I wouldn't have even gotten a 3-bedroom for $1,650. A 3-bedroom would have been over $2,000 in any sort of apartment that I would have looked at in that same area. The other kicker is, again, I chose to leave the 2 rooms available. I could have easily found roommates and filled those other 2 bedrooms at $600 or probably even $700 a pop for those 2 bedrooms. And if I would have done that, my monthly payment would have been from $1,650. If I would have gotten $700 each, that's $1,400 total. It would have been like $250 that I would have been paying to live in Plymouth. Do you know how much cash I could have stacked up if I would have chose to do that? Again, I chose not to because I was just tired of roommates. But again, that doesn't mean that you couldn't do that, all right? You could sacrifice more than I was willing to sacrifice and do the roommates again, and you would only have a $250 mortgage payment every single month. In an A+ area, you'd be able to save up way more cash for your next investment or for renovations or whatever. It was awesome. To be in that area and to live there for $250 a month would have been fantastic. So you need to figure out what the other unit's gonna rent for and what other rooms you could rent in your actual unit if you choose to do that. A great resource that I like to tell people about is Rentometer. That's where I actually looked at kind of what my lower unit could rent for. It's not perfect, but it does give you a gauge of like, okay, what's kind of the average price point for the rental market in this specific area. You put in a 3-bed, 1-bath or a 2-bed, 1-bath, you figure out, hey, can I get this number? You throw that number in there and it'll tell you, yeah, that's reasonable for the area, or no, wait, you're actually gonna be a little bit higher than the average. That doesn't mean that you can't get that if you have more amenities. You know, central AC system, if you have a fenced in yard, if you have garages, if you have updated kitchens or bathrooms, something like that, right? But it does give you a good gauge of what that market looks like. So that's the multifamily route. Financing options are a little bit more limited. The multifamily in different areas, they're not gonna be all over the place. You're not gonna find them a lot in the suburbs. You're gonna find a lot of opportunity in Minneapolis and St. Paul, which is fine. But when you're buying a duplex or a multifamily in Minneapolis and St. Paul, it's gonna be old. A lot of these duplexes in the Minneapolis and St. Paul area are 1900 to 20, 30, 40, 50 build max. A lot of these buildings are old. My duplex in Plymouth, I think, is 1960 or 1970 build, but everywhere in Minneapolis and St. Paul, you're gonna find tons of opportunity, but they're going to be older, and you're just gonna have to make sure that you're okay assuming those responsibilities of buying an older property. So if we look at multifamily and single family totally from just both options here, right? The awesome part of owning a property and house hacking is you're getting the ownership benefits, right? You're making money while you sleep, quote unquote, because the property should appreciate as the market appreciates, right? Your money is not going towards someone else's, mortgage payment, which is what you're doing when you're throwing money towards rent. You're actually having tenants, whether it's roommates or a separate unit, help you pay that mortgage and pay that principal down. So you're getting a spread there. It's increasing in value, and your tenants, not even you, are helping pay that principal down, and your wealth is being created just like that. All right, it's going higher and lower, and that gap of equity is all yours. All right, the other thing I love about this is that you're able to learn about renovation costs. So when you live in a property, you have, like, back to my duplex example, if I was paying $250 a month just for my mortgage, that gave me a lot more cash to potentially explore options on renovating the property, right? Like, what happens if I add some LVP flooring? What if I add some tile? What if I redo the kitchen, right? It helps me understand and learn what costs look like if I'm new to that kind of game and that kind of thing. It helps me understand that while not having to pay tons of money for both my mortgage and the renovation costs. All the money that I'm saving for my mortgage payment, I can dump into increasing the value of the property or making it look better from the outside, which thus increases the rent and increases the value, which is just an awesome win-win all around. So keep that in mind, as I do love the fact of people learning about costs, because then when you do go buy your next property, whether you're gonna house hack it or just live in it, okay, I know what kind of flooring costs, I know what kitchens cost, I know what that costs, and it might not be as scary as you thought it was before because you've already done it in kind of a safe, less risky environment. Time for my bonus tips, all right? My first bonus tip when looking at multifamily specifically is split utilities. You are gonna wanna know how the utilities are set up. I see people miss this all the time, right? How are the utilities split up, all right? You have your unit, whether it's side by side or up and down. Is there 2 separate furnaces? Is there 2 separate gas meters? Is there 2 separate water heaters? Is there 2 separate electrical boxes? How are the utilities split up? Because I know for me, I do not want to have to pay that lower tenant or other tenant's electrical bill, heating bill, gas bill, right? I want all of their utilities to be in their name. Generally speaking, the one that I see that's most common to stay in the landlord's name and the owner's name is the water and sewer. But that's not that expensive. That's maybe a couple hundred, maybe like $100 every couple months. So it's like $20 to $30 a month, and they usually bill it quarterly. I do see that a lot, and I'm okay with that. But I don't want to see necessarily 1 boiler or 1 water heater, 1 gas meter, because that means I, as the owner, have to take on all of those costs. And there's ways that we can figure it out, whether we bill back a portion of it to the tenants or we raise rent because of that, and then, kind of have that buffer in there. But ideally, I would love to have it split so that they just pay their utilities and I pay my utilities, and I don't have to worry about that, right? So make sure that you keep that in mind and are paying attention to that when you're looking at multifamily specifically. How are the utilities set up? What am I going to be responsible for? And what are my tenants on the other side going to be responsible for? My second bonus tip is, again, something that I see people miss is the the lawn and snow. How is the lawn and snow gonna get taken care of, right? Is that something that me as the owner, am I gonna have to pay for that? Am I willing to do that? Am I gonna have to outsource it? Can I pay the tenant a portion to do that? Can I give them a rent credit and say, hey, your rent was gonna be $1,600, but I'll actually do it for $1,500 and give you a $100 rent credit so that you are able to then take care of the lawn and snow, right? And it's not a big deal if we don't have a very snowy winter here in Minnesota, but if we do have a snowy winter and you're out there doing a lot of it on your own, one, that's wasting your time potentially. If you hire it, that could be very expensive, or your tenant might get a little mad that they're only receiving $100 and having to do, snow blow or shovel 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times a month, right? So just keep that in mind. Try to figure out how that's gonna work, who's gonna pay for it, who's gonna do it, and if you're okay doing it all, that's awesome. But just make sure that you put something in there for whether it's the value of your time, or if you're gonna outsource it, or if you're gonna reduce rent, make sure the lawn and snow is accounted for some way. This really only applies to duplexes again and multifamily. On the single family side, you're gonna have to do it, or you're gonna have to work out something with your tenants to do it. But the nice thing about a single family is once you move away, usually the lawn and snow you put directly onto the tenants who occupy the entire property. They're the ones who are gonna take care of the lawn and snow, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. On a duplex, it can get tricky. Usually you have to take care of it yourself, whether you do it yourself or you outsource it, or you pay, again, one tenant for the whole building, maybe the lower or upper unit, to take care of it. All of this to be said, just pay attention to who's gonna take care of the lawn and snow, because that can be an actual legitimate expense and can take you from profitable to not profitable pretty quickly, depending on the type of year we get if you weren't thinking about it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really do truly hope it was helpful to kind of discuss what house hacking is and understand the different options. If I can help you and my team can help you in any way, shape, or form, please reach out to me. My name, number, and email will be down below on the screen. We would love to connect with you. Reach out anytime, and we can help set you guys up for success. Until the next video, guys, I appreciate you and have a great day.